This election is about all of us, our neighbors, our seniors, our young people, our families, and our future. On June 16th, Democrats will vote for mayor, delegate to Congress, at-large council, and state party leadership. These races will shape housing, safety, schools, opportunity, and the future of our communities. Don't sit this one out. Return your mail ballot by June 16th and visit ward8pms.com/ward8votes for more information on the voting process.
Greetings, Ward 8 family. I'm Troy Dante Presswood. Do us a favor, click like and share this video on all your social platforms. Let's make sure everyone in the Ward 8 family knows it's election season yet again in our ward, and there's a lot at stake. First, I have some quick reminders that voting is already underway, and you have several ways to cast your ballot.
Here is a list of the Ward 8 early vote sites on your screen. Go ahead and take a screenshot so you have it handy and share it with family, neighbors, seniors, young voters, and anyone else who might need a reminder. This year, with ranked choice voting in effect, that means it's especially important to take a few minutes to understand your ballot before you cast your vote. Early voting is a great opportunity to go inside of a vote center to ask questions and feel confident about the process.
You can even drop off your completed mail-in ballot at any of these vote sites. If you need to register to vote or update your voting information, you can do that at these voting locations as well.
The final day to vote is June 16th. A list of the Election Day vote centers are on your screen, so take a screenshot now so you can keep it close. Don't wait until the last minute. Get informed, make a plan, and encourage your family and neighbors to do the same.
Now, for all the details, including where to vote, a sample ballot, candidate information, and more, visit our special election website at ward8dems.com/ward8votes. We've got you covered with everything you need to know at that website. Remember, your vote is your voice, and it shapes the future of our ward. Don't sit this one out.
One more time for the people in the back. Good afternoon, Ward 8. Thank you. There it is, right there. There it is. Thank you. Listen, my name is Khalid Barnes. I am currently a freshman, sophomore now at Morehouse College, Ward 8, finest youngin'. You understand me. I'm going to come up here and settle myself. Ward 8 child, amen. Okay? So we definitely want to say good afternoon to each and every one of you who are in the building on today. We thank you for joining us, and we thank you for being a part of what today has to offer, all right? So before we go any further into this, I don't take this moment lightly, okay? I want y'all all to hear what I'm saying, all right? If you in the back, the people in the back, can you hear me? You can hear me. There it is. I heard a one yes. I got a one amen. Do I got anybody else in the back who can hear me? There we go. All right, cool. I like that. I love you. So listen, I don't take this moment lightly, okay? As a young person from Ward 8 myself, I don't take this moment for granted because this is where everything shifts, okay? This is where things shift for our generation. This is where things shift for our culture. This is where things shift for our people, all right? Especially here east of the river. Today is a day where it is monumental, all right? Today is a day where it should not be taken lightly, okay? So, for me as a young person who cares deeply about this city and someone who ultimately believes in the future of Ward 8, right? Too often, us as young people, we have to wait our turn. Too often, us as young people, we are told that not now, not yet, we gotta wait. But today is a day that shifts everything about our people. For those who can't vote, it's your time. You got the opportunity to help us and see who we want to vote for in the future, all right? So, we definitely thank each and every one of you for coming. Very quick note, real quick. I want everybody to hear me when I say this. Everybody pay attention. Pay up real quick. Give me one. Give me one. If you're looking at me, give me a one. If you paying attention, everybody in the back. If you in the back, give me a one real quick. One. Thank you. That's good right there. So what I want you to do me a favor. Pay attention. Do not walk in front of the camera whatsoever at all. Do not walk in front of here, please and thank you. We want to ensure this place is blocked off, all right? So with that being said, right, we're going to move forward. Today matters. Somebody shout, today matters. Today matters. I need you to make sure that you lock in, hear what everybody got to say, pay attention to what everybody got to say, listen up, because this is going to make the decision on who you vote for. I don't care who you vote for, as long as you vote. Somebody say, Ward 8 need to vote. You need to vote. I don't care who it is. Okay, we got a good amount of candidates up, but not now. They're going to be up in a little bit. But we got candidates here. They some good people. I don't know much about them. We should see. Because I'm trying to figure out what they got going on with themselves. So we're going to see. Okay, this is my first year voting. So this is my first year voting. I'm glad. Yeah, you better clap for that. This is my first year voting. So we thank you. But without further ado, today I want to bring up the man who got the plan together, all right? The man who job I'm going to take in the next 1, 2, 3, I don't know, we're going to see. But I'm going to take his job, all right? So today is about voter education. It's about civic participation. And today is about making the candidates the candidates seeking our votes come directly to the people of Ward 8. They got to hear our concerns, who we got to say, right? So I want to bring up the Ward 8 Democrats president. Can somebody give a hand for the president of the Ward 8 Democrats? Now, Troy Dante Presswood. He's the president of Ward 8 Democrats, a public relations and communication strategist, a small business owner. He got money. A long time. He's old. Now, hear me when I say this. A long time voice. Woo! Jesus. In the Democratic politics right here in the district. He has worked across government, media, campaigns, public affairs, and civic engagement, and he continues to use this platform to make sure that Ward 8 voters are informed, respected, and heard. Now, if you can do me a favor and give the biggest round of applause.
Hello, everybody! Are y'all ready? I can't hear you. Are you ready? We so appreciate you being here at Sycamore and Oak. Give it up for yourselves. Here's what we're going to do. First of all, I want to thank Khalik again for his introduction. I'm Troy Dante Presswood, president of the Ward 8 Democrats. On behalf of our board, our volunteers, our members, welcome to the Ward 8 Democrats Candidate Forum and Straw Poll. A warm welcome to all of our Ward 8 family. Who's here from Ward 8? Raise your hand. Make some noise. Ward 8 in the house. Hey, do me a favor. I want you to like and share content on our social media. How many of you guys on Instagram? Not too many people? Come on now. Y'all on IG? Facebook? Okay, Facebook. Oh, okay. We got Facebook people. Candidates, are y'all taking notice of that? They more Facebook people than they are Facebook, IG, Instagram, wherever you are. Listen, tag us at Ward 8 Votes so we can see your information. Tag us, take a picture, take a selfie, take pictures with candidates, take a picture of you voting, take a picture here at Sycamore and Oak. Whatever you do, tag us at ward8dems.com. Ward 8 Votes. Hashtag Ward 8 Votes. I want to also thank the Board of Elections. They are here today. If you have questions about your ballot, questions about voting, questions about ranked choice voting, the Board of Elections is here. They can talk with you. We'll bring up one of the persons who's here from the Board of Elections in just a moment. Before I go on, I want to bring up LeGreg. Where you at, LeGreg? LeGreg, as you all know, is the owner of the museum store. He's also, I think this mic is working right here, LeGreg. He's also one of the operators here at Sycamore and Oak. I want to bring him up so he can bring greetings to all of you that you're here in Sycamore and Oak. LeGreg.
Too. Good morning, everybody. My name is LeGreg Harrison. Good morning, good morning. And I hope y'all know where y'all at. We're on the greatest side of the town. This is the great Ward 8, the heartbeat of the community, the pulse of Washington, D.C. We're in Congress Heights, where I was born and raised in my backyard at Martin Luther King Avenue. I grew up over here my entire life. And right now, you are sitting in a 23,000 square foot mass timber space called Sycamore and Oak. Southside, we outside? We outside, Southside. Listen, we are elated to have you here. Shout out to the Ward 8 Democrats. Shout out to Troy for putting this on. This is so amazing. So 2023, when we first opened this space, 23,000 square feet. We are the house of 20 black entrepreneurs, and this is their first opportunity at a brick and mortar space. And we have been incubated for 2.5 years, going on 3 years coming next month. We have been incubated with a program called Incubate the 8. It's a small business retail program where we give small business technical assistance, resources, and support to these small business, these vendors. And when I tell you, we have done so many things. I'll give you one example. I have a sneaker line now, ladies and gentlemen, because we were afforded the opportunity to fly to Las Vegas to go see a manufacturer that I met in China. And now I'm able to produce my own sneakers, in which out of 1,000 pair of sneakers I sold 800 in 2 days right here in Ward 8, okay? This place is about being vibrant. We're the house of wellness. Shout out to Joe Houston right here. We fit DC. But listen, we can't forget about Ward 8, everybody. We gotta make sure that we make the main thing the main thing. We can't do this right here without you, okay? So shout out once again to the Ward 8 Democrats. Troy, we love you. Thank you for bringing this to Sycamore and Oak, and let the fun happen.
Thank you so much, LeGrand. We appreciate that. I'll take it back from you. Give him another round of applause, everybody. Listen, LeGrand has a shop right here at Sycamore and Oak, the museum shop. Make sure you check it out. Get some of your great clothing line. It's right around the corner. Am I right? It's on the other side of this structure right here, so check them out before you leave. All right, let's start with the race for mayor. The mayor is the chief executive of the District of Columbia. The mayor runs the executive branch, oversees city agencies, proposes budgets, and shapes public safety, manages city services, and sets the tone for how government shows up or how it doesn't show up in people's lives. For Ward 8, this office matters deeply. The mayor's decisions affect housing, schools, public safety, recreation, jobs, economic development, healthcare access, small businesses, and whether these investments will reach communities here in Ward 8 and in the city. This is also a major transition election. Mayor Muriel Bowser is not seeking another term after 12 years in office. That means that voters will choose a new mayor at a time when the city is facing major challenges, and you all know what they are. The Democratic candidates on the ballot include Kenyon McDuffie, Rennie's Sampath, Gary Goodweather, Janice Lewis-George, Ernest E. Johnson, Hope Solomon, Vincent Orange, and any other eligible write-in candidate, some in which are here today, and they'll be talking with you about why you should write them in or why you should vote for them. So I want to thank all the campaigns because they actually, those who we're here from today on the stage made a donation to our Get Out the Vote efforts. Can you give them all a round of applause for that? It's not easy trying to get people out to vote in Ward 8 because, let's face it, there's some existential challenges that Ward 8 residents are facing. And so voting is the least of their concerns oftentimes. But we have to help them understand that voting is really the start of making something change for them and in their lives. So that's why we asked those campaigns to invest in us, and we are happy for that. So let's bring up our first conversation today with former council member Kenyon McDuffie. Well, thank you so much for being here. Kenyon, first of all, I want to say that you are running to lead this city at a moment when Ward 8 residents feel that the city is changing around them, but not always for them. What is your specific case to Ward 8 voters today?
So first of all, let me say thank you to Troy and all the Ward 8 Democrats for creating this forum for us to be able to engage with Ward 8. Let's give the Ward 8 Democrats another round of applause for everything they've been doing to make sure folks in Ward 8 are connected to democracy. So my case for Ward 8 is that I'm not just showing up for the first time as a candidate for mayor to Ward 8. I've been showing up to Ward 8 for as long as I can remember. I've been showing up to play sports in Ward 8 way back when you had the Boys and Girls Club there and there was a Safeway on MLK. I met my wife in Ward 8. My wife grew up around the corner in Congress Heights, right on Newcomb Street. I've been coming around Ward 8 since I can remember, and as a council member, I've showed up for Ward 8. I showed up for Ward 8 during some of the toughest times that y'all have had, when you all have lost people's lives to gun violence. I've supported your council members with resources and making sure that we can put economic activity and development into the community, create jobs for folks in Ward 8. I supported projects just like this. And I supported you all's businesses over the years as a council member. So I'm starting off by saying that as mayor, I'm running for Mayor of Washington, D.C. to fight and deliver for all D.C. at a time where we have a president that doesn't care about our city. We got Donald Trump, who is working to really separate, to embed ICE with MPD, creating an environment where people don't even want to live in Washington, D.C. right now, where our immigrant neighbors are living in the shadows, making sure that it's unsafe for communities across the District of Columbia. I've showed up for Ward 8 to make sure that we've had resources, not just downtown and building office buildings, but coming to this community as well. And I'm going to do the same thing as Mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm running to make this city more affordable, including in building the housing that we need, including when it comes to child care, so that people can afford to have their kids go to child care and be in the workplace at the same time. Yeah. I'm running to make sure that there's more opportunity that shows up in these communities so that y'all don't have to come to City Hall and ask for it. Yeah. And I'm running to make sure that we have a government that's accountable to people across the District of Columbia, including right here in Ward 8. What I'm saying is, I didn't just show up to Ward 8 today as a candidate. I've been showing up to Ward 8, and I'm going to continue to show up to Ward 8 as the next mayor of the District of Columbia.
Okay, all right. So you just talked about young people. You talked about investing in youth. If you become mayor, DCPS remains under mayoral control, but we know that half of our students are in charters, and so I'm curious about your take on two things. One, the charter versus traditional public school model, and how you will support that in terms of equity and funding. But then also, thank you. Okay, we want you to hear. But then the other thing too, Kenyon, is that do you support, and I want to shout out our school board rep here, LaJoy Johnson-Law. Hey LaJoy, wave your hand in the air. LaJoy is our school board rep here. Do you support some controls going back to the school board?
So what I support is school choice. I support a strong and vibrant school system for our public students across the city. That includes DC public schools and DC public charter schools. We have one system of public education, and I am 100% in support of it. And I've been supporting LaJoy and Jock and everybody else who has been representing Ward 8 across the District of Columbia when it comes to our school system, to make sure that we're doing this work through a lens of equity. I know that the national headlines have been saying how well DC public schools are doing, and it's true. We've seen a lot of gains over the years. We've been recognized as one of the fastest improving urban school districts in the country. We were just recognized recently as one of the fastest improving since COVID-19 pandemic. But the reality is, when you peel back the layers, some of those improvements have not been evenly distributed across the board, including right here in Ward 8. So I'm going to make sure that we are showing up in the way that I have, touring the schools with your school board representatives and visiting with your teachers and your parents to understand what your needs are. When it comes to in-classroom supports, early literacy, quality curriculum teaching, teacher retention in high-need areas, when it comes to attendance, showing up in elementary schools, making sure that kids are going to school across the board so that it doesn't turn into chronic absenteeism and definitely doesn't turn into truancy. We're going to make sure the resources reach Ward 8 schools, Troy, when it comes to renovating the schools, that you ought to get in everything that you need so that you feel safe on your way to school when it comes to safe passages, just like I've been doing for the last several years, putting resources in the schools and out of school to make sure you get what you need so you can have the best quality schools as any school across the city.
But Kenyon, in terms of the school board, are you in favor of returning some controls back to the school board?
I mean, it depends on what you say by returning some controls.
You've heard the arguments.
I think the system is a good system, and I support the system we have. What we need is new leadership. I support putting in place a chancellor who's going to show up to Ward 8 regularly and engage with the parents and the students and the teachers and everybody else who is educating our students across Ward 8. I support a chancellor who's going to bring leadership that is really making sure that the resources touch every school in Ward 8 and that things are not inequitable. I support leadership that's not putting all the resources into the front office, but is showing up in the communities across the District of Columbia and working with the school board to make sure you get everything you need.
So that sounds like not quite.
I support our system of school choice that we have in place.
Right.
A strong, vibrant, robust DC public school system.
Right. School board, though, you're non-committed in terms of returning power back to them. That would be very clear.
I support LaJoya and everything that she's doing advocating for students in Ward 8 and all the work she's doing, particularly when it comes to special education, making sure that the resources go to where the need is, the transportation is where it needs to be, and making sure that our school system is strong. No matter where you live, no matter your zip code, you should have access to a quality education in your community.
Okay, let's move on. You have represented Ward 5 and you have served at large for a while now. Your campaign keep it all together here. Your campaign talks about affordability and public safety. What would be the first Ward 8 specific action that you would take as mayor that residents could see or feel within the first 100 days?
The first Ward 8 action that I would take as mayor so that residents can see or feel is to hold my first community meeting as mayor of the District of Columbia in Ward 8. I'm going to show up in Ward 8 like a mayor is supposed to and meet you all in your communities so that I'm not surprised by the things that you all are experiencing on a daily basis. Leadership is not about what you do simply at City Hall and the Wilson Building. It's about showing up in communities every single day. And the very first public meeting that I have in the community in the District of Columbia as the next mayor of Washington, D.C. is going to occur right here in Ward 8, meeting with Ward 8 residents and walking with Ward 8 residents and understanding Ward 8 residents' concerns and putting residents' concerns at the top of my priority list. We're going to make sure y'all are safe, y'all have quality education, and y'all are getting the jobs created that you need and connecting Ward 8 residents, including young folks, to those career pathways.
So, Councilmember, talk to me about public safety. That's one of the top issues that is resonating here in Ward 8. I know it's one of your issues as well. Many people here in Ward 8 say they want safety that is real and sustainable. What is your public safety plan for Ward 8? Does that include more police? Does it include violence interruption, trauma care, youth programming, accountability? Give me the list.
So when it comes to public safety, and the people who are talking are probably not the people that live in Ward 8 who care about safety. Let's be clear about that. The people that are making noise right now don't live in Ward 8. They don't care about safety. Because if they did, they would be listening to what I'm about to say. When it comes to public safety, it's about accountability and opportunity. When it comes to public safety, it is about quality, community-oriented policing with officers who are invested in communities, with officers who understand the communities, with officers who show up before a crime happens and understands what communities are experiencing. It's about quality, community-oriented policing where officers know the name of the senior citizen who sits on the porch and has been there for 30 or 40 or 50 years. Officers who show up who know the names of the young folks who are playing on the court and on the fields. Officers who show up who know the names of the shop owners along the corridors where you all live. So it's about accountability, making sure that when people commit crimes, Troy, they are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, and that accountability happens swiftly and certainly. But it's also about opportunity. It's also about showing up in neighborhoods and ushering in opportunity in a way that residents can really feel it, in a way that young folks know that they're being seen and they're being heard. I'm not just telling you what I'm going to do as mayor. I'm telling you what I've been doing as a council member, showing up across this city, including in Ward 8, with your council member, making investments in these neighborhoods. When I took over chairmanship of Judiciary and Public Safety, I held a meeting because we were having an epidemic in violence. That first meeting wasn't with people who live out of town. It was with people who were already doing work in neighborhoods across this city, including in Ward 8. That meeting had people like Ron Moten. It had people like Tony Lewis Jr., Silas Grant, Charles Thornton, and it had people like Trayon White before he was even on the council. I've been showing up for Ward 8, making sure that we understand the consequences of what neglect looks like when the government does not show up. I authored the Neighborhood Engagement Achieve Results Act that ushered in a public health-based approach to crime prevention and intervention, established the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and embedded community violence interrupters in communities across Ward 8. I made sure that the resources were getting to the organizations that are connected to communities in Ward 8, identifying young folks at the highest likelihood of committing gun violence, engaging them, putting them in a classroom setting, training them up, and connecting them with workforce development and jobs. Public safety is about accountability and opportunity. It's not about showing up when it's time for a campaign. I've been showing up in Ward 8 during the tough times and the good times.
So what do you say to voters here in Ward 8 who are concerned about being displaced? Some families here are worried about being priced out of the city. You know, short story, because, you know, I know you from way back when, but I remember
Troy and I went to Howard together. We had classes together at Howard.
Ain't you?
You know.
Gotta get it in. Gotta get it in. And your fellow candidate also, HU. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I just want to make sure that, you know, you understand the pressures that folks like myself and others, when we could leave, we can move out to Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, away from the region now. And so what do you say to voters in Ward 8 who are concerned about being displaced, who are concerned about what's happened with housing? We see rapid, the ERAP program is woefully underfunded. What do you say to that particular issue around housing?
What I say is that Washington, D.C. needs a mayor with a real plan for housing. I have a real plan for housing. I have a real plan for housing that's going to build 12,000 new units of affordable housing. It's going to preserve 20,000 existing units of housing, and it's going to build 1,500 new units of family-sized housing so we can also keep families here. What I'm not going to do is tell you something that I cannot execute on day one. What I'm not going to do is tell you that we're going to build 72,000 units of housing when we're never going to do that, because that's a lie. And I'm not willing to lie to you. I'm going to be honest with you. I know that every single resident that lives in the District of Columbia deserves safe and affordable housing across the city. But for far too long, we've concentrated the construction of affordable housing east of the river. What we need to do is build more housing faster across the city so that all neighborhoods are helping to address the housing crisis that we have. That includes building affordable housing in other parts of the city, including west of the park. So I'm going to make sure that we cut down on the red tape that prevents people from being able to build housing in the District of Columbia today. We're going to cut down on the friction with government that prevents us from getting deals done. We're going to make the agencies that touch on housing work better and faster so that you can get the permits that you need to construct the housing that we need across incomes, including deeply affordable housing as well as missing middle, so that our teachers and our first responders, our firefighters, our child care workers, our health care workers, they can all live in Washington, D.C., and we're going to build that housing across every ward in our city to make sure that you all can also get the housing you need, including for sale housing, so that we're building multi-family rental and for sale housing so that people can live out their dreams of owning homes in the District of Columbia as well.
Now, in terms of developers, especially those who are shoddy developers, and we have a number of those here in Ward 8, will you hold them accountable?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I will. And here's the thing. What I do, I have a track record of holding people accountable across the board when it comes to oversight. And we're going to make sure that people who get a government benefit, who develop on government land, are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law with penalties that matter so that they feel it. If you don't deliver on the promises that you've made, then you're going to pay for it, and you're going to hurt because of your lack of accountability. We're going to make sure that we stand up to developers who are not putting the interests of DC residents first in a way that we have never done before. There will be consequences if you don't deliver on your promises.
So before we hear your closing argument, I want to ask you a fun question, which is that Ward 8, as those of you who live here and work here and worship here, you know that Ward 8 has some of the best views, the best culture, the best history. Hello, somebody, come on now. The best views, I say that twice because it really does have some of the best views. Where would you take someone out in Ward 8 to help them understand the soul of the city? You can't use this location here. You gotta use another location. Where would you take them out in Ward 8 to be like, yo, this is the soul of the city?
I would take them to Players Club.
Okay.
I'll take them to Georgina's.
Yeah.
I'll take them to make sure they have a good time and see some good people and see the heart of Ward 8. I would take them to a place that's been an institution in Ward 8 for years, across politics. It's a place where community really gets together. So that's what I would take them, Troy.
Okay, why Georgina's? Why Players Lounge? Tell me why.
Because you get the flavor of Ward 8 in a way that you don't get if you go to some new place. Now, look, I'll take them to Georgina's and then I'll take them down the street to some of the newer places too, right? Because I have helped to build and invest in communities, including in the intersection of Martin Luther King and Good Hope Road. I put money in the budget to make sure that we can keep We Act Radio where it is, so we can have the Go-Go Museum where it is, so that we can have development right at that corner of Marion Avenue and Good Hope Road.
All right, I got you. So Players Lounge, and then you're gonna ride them down MLK toward Marion Avenue. I got you.
Sweet Tooth, keep it going.
You keep it going. All right. Listen, thank you.
And I've been to all those places, by the way. I've been to all those places, by the way.
Listen, thank you so much for engaging in this type of forum here, answering our questions. By the way, these questions came from Ward 8 voters, so thank y'all for sending those in. Mr. Kenyon McDuffie, I give you the last word. Take a couple of minutes.
So, Troy, again, thank you to the Ward 8 Democrats for this opportunity. Washington, D.C. is at an inflection point right now. We can move boldly into the future with leadership that fights back against Trump, protects our home rule, and creates neighborhoods that are safer, more affordable, and more opportunity-rich, with a government that is accountable to you, a government that uses the people's resources for the people's priorities. What we cannot afford is to elect somebody who's campaigning on empty promises, somebody who's campaigning on lies, somebody who's not showed up for the Ward 8 community in the way that I have. I have consistently shown up for communities across the District of Columbia. Even when I was a Ward 5 council member, it did not matter, because those borders are not real when it comes to the pain that people in Ward 8 have been feeling for decades. I've shown up with the people who are here, including the faith community, including your council member. I put money in the budget for resources for Ward 8, for economic development projects. I worked on the first tax increment financing in Ward 8 history. I supported this project right here. I supported connecting people with jobs in Ward 8 when it comes to RFK and other economic development projects. I have a track record of delivering real results for Ward 8 residents, just as I have for residents across the District of Columbia. And if you want a mayor who actually has a vision of economic growth with guardrails, who's going to make it more affordable when it comes to buying homes and living in the city, when it comes to child care and utility costs and groceries, then I'm your candidate. I'm Kenyon McDuffie. I'm #1 on the ballot. And I'm promising I'm going to deliver for Ward 8. I'm going to deliver for Ward 8. I'm going to fight for Ward 8 every single day, just like I have for 13 and a half years in this city. Thank you, Ward 8. Thank you.
Over here, so up next is the Ward 4 council member from the District of Columbia. Give it up for Janice Lewis-George. Thank you, Councilwoman, for being here.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here at this forum. Hey, I just want to jump right into what you just heard. I think you may have heard a couple of digs at you from the former council member there. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to correct anything that you may have heard.
Good afternoon, Ward 8. It's good to see y'all. My name is Janice Lewis George. I am a proud third-generation Washingtonian, a proud graduate of DC Public Schools, a proud graduate of the Howard Law University here in HU. I'm also a proud daughter of Union Temple Baptist Church, W Street, the daughter of Willie Wilson, Mary Wilson, and Anika Wilson Brown. So while Ward 4 is my residential home, Ward 8 has always been my spiritual home. And so for me, when I stepped up to run for office, it's because I believe that we deserve a leadership that is going to put people first. And for me, putting people first means three things. First, addressing this affordability crisis. Everyone is feeling the squeeze. Housing is too expensive. Child care is too expensive. Utilities are too expensive. And we deserve a leadership who's going to actually do something about it. I fought against rent hikes when they were trying to raise our rents up to 12% and stop it for families and for seniors. I stood on the line and I have voted against taking away total rights, tenants' rights for families and communities, and utilize those rights to save my family's being home. We need leadership that is actually going to put money in the pockets of working families and Black people. I was proud to fund the Early Childhood Educator Pay Equity Fund so Black and brown women got the money they deserve. That's money going in their pockets. I was proud to fund the first earned income tax credit, the first basic income of its kind, where we put money in the pockets of working families. So you can trust me to stand up for affordable DC. We also need leadership that is going to address Trump and stand up for our community. We know I have authored the legislation to end cooperation between MPD and ICE. I didn't just say it when it was a political talking point. I was about it before that. I have stood on the ground in my community protecting Black, Eritrean, and Ethiopian residents who have been under Trump's attack and our Latino residents who've been under attack. And you can trust that I'm going to show up and fight against Trump because unlike Mr. McDuffie, I'm not taking Trump donor dollars. In fact, Jeff Wall is Trump's top attorney, and he is one of Mr. McDuffie's top funders. And he still hasn't given those Trump donor dollars back. Do not be dissuaded. I'm ready to stand up for our Black youth and not demonize them and use Republican talking points to arrest our Black youth and disrupt our Black families right here in Ward 8. Well, you can also trust me as the People First Mayor to show up for this community because I remember me and Councilmember Trayon White when Anacostia Gray water system was turned over and the Early Childhood Center was closed. It was me and Councilmember White who stood at Anacostia demanding DGS to make a change. When Ballou HVAC system was not working, we went to Ballou and stood in the halls to make sure that our young people had our schools. Every elementary school in Ward 8 has been left behind. We went up there and said the HVAC has to be on, the doors have to be locked, right? So we know that we can have a mayor that puts people first in this city. Okay. And it's about time that we have that level of leadership. That's why I'm running. A true daughter of the district who's actually delivered for working families and working people, especially right here in this home of Ward 8.
In Ward 8, all right. So, Council Member, you mentioned this, I want to bring this up. So the city is facing an adversarial relationship with the federal government right now. It is unprecedented. I was talking to some of the elders the last time I can foresee this happening. We had the control board back in the 90s, of course.
That's right.
But before that, we're talking about maybe a good 40 or so years when we had the commissioner-style government. The current administration in the White House is threatening, as well as Republicans on the Hill, threatening that type of governance here in the city. How will you, as mayor, work with our federal government? I mean, they are a major part of Washington, D.C. You can't get around that. Absolutely. How will you work with them and to help them understand that we're partners in the District of Columbia, not adversarial?
Yes, thank you for that question. So as a daughter of the district, I think it's so important that we preserve our statehood and our autonomy. And I have a plan to do so. And I would never jeopardize our statehood and our autonomy, but I think we can have a strategy that isn't just supplying in advance. So what we're gonna do is use every legal tool we have to fight back against this administration. I'm gonna work with Attorney General Brian Schwab to make sure that we are in the courts fighting. I was the only council member who stood in the courtroom with Eleanor Holmes Norton and Brian Schwab when we went to court when they tried to overtake our police department. And I stood there with them, and guess what? We won and did not allow them to federalize the police department. So we know we can use legal tools. I'm also going to build relationships in Congress. I have been walking the halls of Congress myself, one of the only candidates that have shown up with Free DC in the halls of Congress, building relationships. Because the only thing protecting us from real autonomy being taken is that we don't have 7 Democrats in the Senate who will vote for Republicans. But we have the opportunity to have a federal affairs office, not one person, and I'm not talking about showing up to caucus happy hours. I'm talking about building relationships and saying, welcome to DC. I know you're here to serve your jurisdiction. Here's how DC is going to help you, and here's how we need you to help DC. And I know that is working because we had conversations with several Congress people who told us that this is the first time they're ever hearing from DC leadership, ever. Even Hakeem Jeffries told us personally that DC wasn't doing a good job building relationships with Democrats. I've been able to have conversations with purple jurisdiction Democrats like in Virginia, and I said to them, we need you voting with DC. They said, I didn't know that my vote against DC was so consequential. So we know we can make the case to fight for DC home rule. But I tell people, fighting back and fighting for your community doesn't mean that you're not able to work with any and everybody. I'm willing to work with anyone who's going to benefit the residents of DC, but I want to be clear that I will stand up to anyone who attacks our community. And I think it's important to note that the greatest threat to home rule is these pay-to-play politics that takes place when we have sports betting contracts that cost the city $200 million, right? When we have contractors who make $13 million off our city and then are arrested for fraud. We know that the mismanagement under the Business and Economic Development Committee, that level of mismanagement on the mayoral level is the greatest threat we actually have to autonomy and to a control board coming back.
And so I want to just get you on the record here. Obviously, when Trump 2.0 came in, Mayor Bowser went and met with the president down in Mar-a-Lago. If you become mayor, will you meet with Trump either in Mar-a-Lago or at the White House?
I am not meeting with Trump in Mar-a-Lago. That's a no, right? I'm here to serve DC residents, and I'm staying right here in Washington, DC. But I will meet with him in our city, in the White House, and have a conversation with the administration. And I will let him know where our lines are. Our black youth, I will not negotiate and demonizing our black youth. I will not jeopardize our black seniors being able to stay in this community. I will not jeopardize home rule and autonomy. But if you want to work on something, Mr. Trump, federal land in the district, we can build on those things, right? We have the opportunity to make Union Station actually a regional transit hub in this city. We need him to develop Union Station and create over 6,000 jobs for DC residents. So if he wants to help us build and he wants to help us create jobs, then that's where we can meet together and use our federal land to create housing, to create art and creativity and music, and to support DC residents with safe places and green spaces.
As I said, Ward 8 is home to a lot of families with children that attend both public and public charter schools. How will you as mayor support both sectors? Will you work to integrate them a little bit better or not? And then also the same question I asked to your opponent, which is about the school board. LaJoy Johnson Law is in the back. She's listening very closely.
Yes, absolutely.
She's out. If you don't know who she is the Ward 8 school board representative to those of you who are new to Ward 8. And so I'm curious, they've been asking for a little bit more control. Would you work with them to do that?
Yeah, so education is one of the most important issues, and it's not been talked about enough. While I've shown up to every education forum because I wanted to know it was important that education was an issue I care about. And in addition to being all my roles, my greatest role is that I am Pierce's mother. And I look at that as I look at my 19-month-old son, I know that I'm gonna have to make choices about what schools he goes to. And I wanna make sure that he has options as a young black student in this city, no matter where he lives in the city. I want him to have options to education. So I think in our city, we have done a lot in education, but there are areas where we need to improve. On day one, I'm going to attack chronic absenteeism. Because guess what? If we can't close math and reading gaps if our children are not in school. So we have to deal with chronic absenteeism. I'm going to set one office responsible for chronic absenteeism so we don't have 5 different agencies doing it. I'm also going to implement home visiting, right? Because that's how you create accountability with parents and accountability with students. So if young people are not in school, that means we're showing up to your home and saying, why was your child not here, parent? And child, why were you not here? And if they need support and help, we're going to connect them to our amazing collaborators. Ward 8 has the best collaborators, some of the best collaborators in the city, the Far Southeast Collaborative. We're going to connect those families to be able to get the connected services they need. We're going to address special education. We have failed, and I mean double F failed, in providing special education to our students here in DC. We rely on a reactive system. We make it so that families have to go to court and sue the system so they can get actual services through their individualized education plans. And let me tell you how that hurts families. Because what I saw when I was at OSSI as an assistant general counsel there was that families in other parts of the city had enough money to afford lawyers. But families in other parts of the city don't have money for lawyers. You shouldn't have to be wealthy and have a lawyer for your child's individualized education plan to be met. So my plan is going to be investing dollars in our special education teachers and our general education teachers getting the training they need to actually supply special education services and actually giving them the planning time and the concrete support they need in class and out of class to be able to deliver on students' individualized education plans. That is an area. But here in this ward particularly, we have 2 issues that I think is important. We have a middle school gap in this community. Ward 7 and 8 deserve middle schools that have the same supports and services as every other middle school. So to me, we have to address that, and government has to create a middle school for the families here that have STEM programming and singing programming and language and diversion and bilingual programming. And so I want to address the middle school gap, especially for these families, and I want to give our high school students at Anacostia and Ballou the opportunity to do what students other parts of the city do, to be able to get associate's degrees at Trinity University and Howard University and GW. And I also want to partner with labor. We're going to make it so that unions can come into the schools as early as 6th grade and connect our young people to jobs in the trades. So that way, at 6th grade, they see the opportunity ahead of them, and they don't jeopardize their opportunity by making bad life decisions. So in those ways, I want to be an education champion for our young people, and you can trust me to do that, because as facilities chair, I've gone to every ward in this city and made sure that our facilities were where they need to be, and I've shown up to every education oversight hearing for the last 6 years, because it's an issue I care so deeply about, and I can't wait to be a champion for all of our students, whether they're in DC Public School or DC Charter School. They all deserve the same investment and attention and real leadership.
You built your brand around progressive policy and structural change. Ward 8 residents often hear big promises from city leaders. We're used to hearing that. What would you say to a skeptical Ward 8 voter who is in the House today about how your plans will become real for them in their neighborhoods?
Yeah, I want to say this. Oftentimes people will talk about what they want to do, what they can do, what they should have done. But I believe, as my grandmother would say, right, you got to believe who people are by how they've shown up for you in the past. And I have been here on the ground supporting our Ward 8 families. The reason why I put money in the pockets of Black and brown women early childhood educators, because they were underserved. But many of the child care centers in Ward 8 have also been underserved. And when we put money in the pockets of their educators, we also made it a viable opportunity for those child care centers to grow. I was able to make sure we put money in the pockets of working families, the first basic income of its kind through earned income tax credit. People are getting that money right now every month because of those actions, right? When I did facilities work, I showed up at the schools and I didn't talk to the principals, I talked to the custodial staff, and they told me how the city had failed them. But what I want to be clear in this moment is, it is important that people have been told for years that things are not possible, that plans are not possible, yet they make it possible for everybody else except residents in Ward 8. And they want you to to believe this lie right now. That she has plans, but she can't get them done. Every plan I have set to do in the council, I have gotten done. My bills have actually been passed, funded, and implemented. The early childhood educators, the earned income tax credit family funds, those babies have been waiting for those baby bonds for years. That bill was never funded. We gotta be clear about who has actually had real impact. And I want you to know, people will say all of these things, but if they are bought and paid for by Trump executives and Pepco executives and union busters, they are not going to stand up for you. And so you need to choose people who are unbossed and unbossed and unafraid to have the moral courage and the clarity in this moment to stand up and actually produce results for people in the
Councilwoman, thank you for that response. Councilwoman, actually, I wanted to go back to my previous question. I'm not sure if you answered. Maybe you did. I may have missed it. Would you support returning some power and authority to the school board?
Oh, I think we need to be collaborative with the school board, and they do need to have some more input and more power within our city.
Okay.
Now, I believe the chancellor should still report to the mayor because we have some work to get done, and we can't change the overall system right now, but we got to tackle special education, chronic absenteeism, the middle school gap, closing literacy and math gaps in our city. But I do believe that our school board should have a say in who our superintendent is. And work with the Office of State Superintendent of Education to make policies that impact young people. So I was proud to work. I'm proud to work with LaJoya Law. I've been proud to work with Carlene Reed.
I want to hop to the final question here, but thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I got you on the record on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the fun question before your closing statement.
Yeah.
I'm asking everyone this: where would you go? Where would you take someone here in Ward 8 if you want to show them a good time? If you want to show them the soul of the city, where would you take them here in Ward 8?
Okay, well, first y'all need to come to church, Union Temple Baptist Church. Reverend Anika Wilson Brown preaches a good word every Sunday, so please come to Union Temple Baptist Church where we don't just teach, we don't just preach, we also teach who you are and whose you are. So I hope to see y'all on Sunday in W Street. Amen. Okay, thank you, first and foremost. I want to see people go to Frederick Douglass House. The reason I want people to see the Frederick Douglass House because oftentimes the story of Ward 8 and Anacostia is one that people lack. This is not a community that lacks. This is not a community that isn't brilliant. This is not a community of poor people. This is a community of rich people, rich in love, rich in community, rich in ideas, rich in power, rich in policy, rich in people. And I'm tired of this. And I'm tired of the story of Ward 8 being a woe is me. The story of Ward 8 is a story of power. It is a story of standing up. And the Frederick Douglass House really embodies that because Frederick Douglass tells us one thing: power concedes nothing without a demand.
Absolutely.
So Ward 8, Frederick Douglass has given you your mission. Concede nothing without a demand, and demand more from this city, and demand more from your leaders.
Well, Councilman, you walked us into your final statement. Please talk to the Ward 8 voters as to why you should be selected as mayor.
Yeah. Well, Ward 8, people got their ballots in their hands. And there has been a lot of conversation about who is ready to lead. And I want you to understand that when I stepped up to run, I stepped up from a place of frustration and anger like many of you. Because I got a chance to run for office because I was pissed off that this city had left and displaced so many black and brown DC residents. I felt it when my mother, a graduate of Cardozo High School, a postal worker here in this city, was no longer able to afford to live in our houses. And I got tired of people talking about gentrification and displacement as if it was something that just happened out of happenstance. I want y'all to know what has happened in our city didn't happen by happenstance. It was people who got in places of power and made decisions about policies. Some of those policies like TOPA rights, where they took away leverage for black families to buy houses and took away leverage for black tenants to be able to stand up against landlords. Those are the type of policies my opponent has voted for. But then we'll say, I stand with BC. You gotta watch, not what people say, but what they do and the policies they put in place. And I'm okay to stand on my record of putting money in the pockets of black and brown residents and workers when they told me, and every single time they told me it was impossible. When I ran for office, they told me she can't win, and I won and made it possible. They said we couldn't have librarians in all of our schools, and I found the money and made it so we had librarians in all of our schools. They said we couldn't do a universal basic income, and now we have an earned income tax credit, putting money in the pockets of people. They want you, they are running this election on Republican tactics, which is to create fear within you. I want you to know, Ward 8, God didn't give you a spirit of fear, right? And when we go into the polls on June 16th, I need you not to go with that fear. I'm a former prosecutor. I know what it takes to make our community safe. There's going to be accountability and responsibility. There's also going to be prevention and intervention work too. I'm the only one who has actually done criminal justice work in this city, and I know the solutions are in this room with the people in this room. So don't let them leave you in a place of fear. I'm ready to fight to make the city affordable for all of our DC residents, to make utilities affordable. And I had the plan. They said she don't have, how's she gonna do it? I told them how I was gonna do it. Then they said, how is she gonna pay for it? I told them how I was gonna pay for it. They have now run out of things they can say about this daughter of the district, because I have a plan to actually do it, a plan to actually pay for it, and a record of actually planning and implementing and getting things done. So Ward 8, I'm asking you to walk into these polls not in a spirit of fear, but a spirit of hope and redemption, because we deserve a mayor who understands that our black seniors deserve a place in the city they built, that our black youth have more promise than they have told on national news, that our black government workers, our teachers, our educators, our nurses, our social workers deserve a mayor who's going to give them the benefits they have worked for and they deserve. So that is what I'm asking you, Ward 8, to see this daughter of the district as someone you should be proud of, because it is the people in this room, it is the teachers in this city, it is the people and the leaders I've watched, and I believe a better DC is possible. And together, we are going to make a people-first DC happen.
Janice, before we bring up our delegates, I do want to bring up, he's running uncontested, as is the representative, Franklin Garcia, but also Senator Paul Strauss. They're going to give you about 30 seconds each.
I think it's important that I have an opportunity to personally ask for your vote, whether I'm running with 10 names on the ballot or 1 name on the ballot. I'm not taking anything for granted. Representing this community is one of the most important honors I've ever had, and it means the world to me to be able to continue to serve you. And so, listen, we don't whether I'm uncontested or hotly contested, I need your vote. I'm asking you personally, and if I'm lucky enough to get it, I'll know I've earned it. And I'm also honored to serve with Franklin Garcia, who's going to be our next shadow U.S. representative. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. When I say D.C., you say statehood. D.C. D.C. Thank you so much for having us out here. This is a beautiful venue, a beautiful place. I've always said that if you want to have a good event, you always come out to Ward 8, because this is where it's happening. Thank you so much for your leadership, Mr. Presswood. Thank you so much. Folks, I'm not new to the fight. You know me, I've been around, I did this before. We managed to get it passed twice, not once, but twice in the House. We're going to do it again. Our path to statehood is clear. Elect more Democrats and we will get there. It's that clear. Are you with me? Are you with me?
We're with you.
We're going to get there, folks. We just need to make sure that while people like me who are not running against other people are going to invest this time in supporting our folks throughout the nation to go out and be and win seats as a Democrat. That's what we're going to do. People in Texas, in Pennsylvania, Virginia, all over the nation, we're going to get there, and we're going to make sure the Democrats get elected, because that's our path to statehood. Thank you so much. Franklin Garcia, let's do it.
Thank you so much. All right, I want to just remind you all that the Democratic candidates for mayor include Kenyon McDuffie, Renee Sampath, Gary Goodweather, Janice Lewis George, Ernest Johnson, Hope Solomon, and Vincent Orange, as well as any write-in candidates that there may be. All right, moving on. Delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives. This is one of the most important races on the ballot, especially at a time when home rule and local democracy is under attack. The delegate is DC's voice in the U.S. House of Representatives and really in Congress. The delegate can introduce legislation, serve on committees, debate, build coalitions, advocate for federal resources, fight for statehood, and defend the district when Congress attempts to interfere in our local affairs. But DC's delegate does not have a final vote on the floor, and that is the injustice at the heart of this office. For more than almost 35 years, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton has held this seat. Will you join me in just giving Congresswoman Norton an applause, a round of applause? She has fought for DC residents in a way that you can only imagine. She's fought for statehood, federal workers, civil rights, and local self-determination. With her retirement, though, this race represents a generational shift. The candidates on the ballot for the Democratic delegate are Kenny Zelezny, Robert White, Trent Holbrook, Brooke Pinto, Greg Zacco, and any other eligible write-in candidate. Today, though, we're joined by four: Brooke Pinto, Trent Holbrook, Robert White, and Kenny Zelezny. And we'll hear from them in that order. We have about 10 minutes to spend with our delegate candidates, and so I want to call up our very first candidate. It is Councilwoman from Ward 2, Ms. Brooke Pinto. Well, thank you so much, Councilwoman, for being here. We appreciate it. And I also want to just remind everyone that those who are appearing on stage did in fact donate to the Ward 8 Democrats Get Out the Vote effort. So please thank them when you see them out in the gallery. First of all, this seat, as I mentioned, has been held by Congresswoman Norton for over 35 years. Why are you the right person for this generational transition? And what would you do differently while honoring the importance of her office?
Good afternoon, Ward 8! It's so great to be here with you, Troy. Thank you to the Ward 8 Democrats and everybody who's come out today. This is such an important election. And the truth is, there's no comparison to Eleanor Holmes Norton. What she has done for our city, for our statehood mission, for civil rights, for women's rights, is unparalleled. And she has made all of us so proud to be Washingtonians. And I want to honor her legacy in the next era that we're entering. And you mentioned this generational moment. That's exactly what we're in. We are in a generational moment. I am proud to be the youngest member ever elected to the DC Council in our history.
So did you beat our own council member, Trayon White? Because he was the youngest at the time.
I did. I'm a little younger. I'm a little younger.
Who's in the back? Hey, council member.
But I think what's so important in this moment is that we can do and must do both. To honor our history and our legacy and make sure that who we are as Washingtonians can be maintained and celebrated, and to think to the future about how we're going to continue to succeed as a city. And part of that is getting more resources from the federal government so that we can all afford to live here, that we can have more resources come to our parks and our schools and our institutions. And that's something that this seat has to be laser focused on, both defending the district, but also proactively securing benefits to the district.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about those benefits. Many DC residents are federal workers, they're contractors, part of households connected to the federal government. How will you protect families from federal workforce cuts if you get on the Hill?
Well, what Donald Trump and congressional Republicans have done to our workforce is outrageous and illegal. We have had over 20,000 of our residents lose jobs through DOGE, as many of you know, and some of those are jobs working directly for the federal government, and even thousands more of contractors and associated jobs. And so one of the things I've tried to do on the council is use our vacancies in our local government to help provide job opportunities for some people who've lost their jobs. One of the things I know Eleanor Holmes Norton, and shout out to Trent Holbrook, who works in our office, is fighting for back pay for those residents who have lost their jobs. But what I want to do in Congress is make sure that we bring in new industries that are in high growth areas to hire our residents. Industries like tech and healthcare and defense manufacturing and AI, so that the tens of thousands of people who have lost their jobs can get trained and work in these high growth industries and be a part of all of our success. And that is one of the most important things that this seat can do, is be proactive to attract those important industries, because jobs are so stabilizing for everything else we want to accomplish, and without bringing more job opportunities here, we're going to look back 10 years from now and really wish we had.
So let's talk a little bit about the federal government. That's the role that you seek to represent the district for. Now, right now, you mentioned that we have Republicans on the Hill who are adversarial to the District of Columbia. We also have an administration that has been adversarial to the District of Columbia. How will you work with Republicans on the Hill as well as the White House to ensure that DC doesn't get stampled on? And before you answer, I'm going to ask once again. If we can use our inside voice. Thank you.
Thank you. So the question is how we're going to work with an administration and congressional Republicans who have it out for us, who do not want us to succeed. And what I have found is that Congress is not a monolith. There are different things that drive different people. And so what I do now, today, is go to the Hill and meet with members and defend against some of these outrageous ideas that they are proposing. Some use logic, some use heart, some need to use other people who they rely on, but there have been dozens of proposals this year that I have worked to successfully stop. Whether that was their proposal to ever disallow the DC Council from changing our criminal laws, stopped. Their proposal to overturn our public safety laws, Secure DC, stopped. And so we have to be proactive. We can't wait until it comes to a vote. We have to make sure that we stop them from trampling on our affairs early. And I am not waiting until January to start that work. That's the work that I do today and every day to protect our city and our right to govern ourselves.
Let's talk a little bit more about Ward 8 specifically. It's home to a lot of federal land. The current Congresswoman has worked to get control of a lot of that land for the city. But that land includes major transportation corridors, the Anacostia River, the military adjacent communities here at Bowling, and neighborhoods affected by federal decisions. What federal issue affecting Ward 8 would you prioritize first?
So one of the most consistent pieces of feedback that I hear from Ward 8 families is wanting more spaces to play and be in community for all ages, for kids, for middle-aged folks, and for seniors. And one of the ways that I want to use this position to accomplish that is to transfer more of our federal park land to district control with funding so that we can use our park land and make sure it's properly maintained and that it's safe and enjoyable and a great place for all of us to be. I also want to pass my bill on the DC Council that opens up new teen centers in all of our quadrants so that we can have a teen center open in Ward 8 with a youth advisory board who is designing the activities to happen at the teen center. And that's where we can have a really important partnership with what we're doing locally and what I will be doing on the Hill, hopefully, with your vote, to make sure that those spaces are available and that we have the funding we need to make that a reality.
Would you work on the Hill to fund get these teen centers funded separate and apart from the district's budget?
I will always look for creative ways to secure more federal funding. I think we are leaving billions of dollars on the table that can honor our families. There's a lot of different mechanisms to do that, and I will always look for how we can get the most funding possible for our city.
Okay. So before we close out, I wanted to ask you, which I've asked everyone so far, you know, Ward 8 is a great place to see the views of the Capitol where you want to end up. And it's also home to a lot of culture and a lot of just, you know, realness, if you will. If you were to come over here in Ward 8, where would you take someone to get the real flavor of Ward 8, the real flavor of DC?
Well, there is so much misunderstanding nationwide about who we are as Washingtonians. Even the way that this president talks about us is as though we are only the federal government. And I think it would be really important to show people who we are and what our culture is. And there's no better place that I can think of than taking them with Ron Moten to the Go-Go Museum and make sure that people not only can enjoy our music, but understand the history of the go-go music and who we are. And then I'd probably take them to D-City Smokehouse for some barbecue brisket.
They do have good barbecue. Well, thank you so much for answering our questions. These questions did come in from the public. I'll give you the floor to make your final statement to Ward 8 and why they should choose you to be the delegate.
Well, in that case, I'll stand. Well, thank you all for coming out today, and I'm so happy to see my colleague, Councilmember Anita Bonds, in the crowd. Give it up for Anita. And thank you. I'm so honored to have Anita Bonds' endorsement in this race. And I'm going to continue doing great things for the city. Appreciate you. So I am Brooke Pinto. I know many of you. You know I love this city. You know I care deeply about protecting our autonomy and making sure that we have the right to govern ourselves. You know I care deeply about every person's public safety because everyone has the right to be safe in our community. And it was our Ward 8 neighborhood walks that we went on over the last several years with many of you at 6 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon and 1 in the morning that said to me and pleaded with me, please do not go to sleep until you do something alongside us to help us with public safety. And that is what drove me for years to pass the most comprehensive public safety law in our city, to make sure that we are preventing crime before it happens, that we are holding perpetrators of violent crime accountable, and that we are better coordinating as a government. And you know I care deeply about our schools and our education system. And I can secure more benefits from the federal government to make sure that those mayoral candidates you just heard from have the resources they need to invest in all of our children and invest in all of our opportunities across the district. We have the most incredible city in the world. I am so proud to live here. I am so proud to serve you here. And I want you all to know that just as I've done every single day on the council and in the Attorney General's office before that, I will fight like hell on our behalf every single day in Congress to make sure that we all have the wins that you deserve. And so you might not have agreed with every single policy that I fought for on the council, but you know we fought and we won to get those passed. And I'm going to do that on behalf of all of us for our city in Congress. And so I need you with me. We've got 17 days left until the election. You can vote by mail, you can vote in person, you can vote on election day. Brooke Pinto, hope to have your support. Thank you so much.
Oh, we got something for you. All right, Trent, come on up. Thank you again for being here. Let's remind people you are running for the delegate to Congress for the District of Columbia. That's the seat currently occupied by Eleanor Holmes Norton. You have a very unique relationship with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. Why don't you start out telling us that?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for hosting this event. Thank you to everybody for being here. So I worked for Congresswoman Norton for the past 8 years, and I was on the front lines of every single major federal fight for DC's future, working side by side with her. We made historic progress on DC statehood, taking the DC statehood bill from losing 2-1 in 1993 to passing in the House. We fought a historic number of anti-home rule attacks. We stood up for our federal employees and done so much more with me fighting side by side Congressman Norton. And not just that, as you mentioned, I've known her even longer. She was one of my professors in law school before that as well, so she and I go way back.
Well, let's talk a bit about home rule. Now, if you are elected to this seat, if Congress moves to overturn DC laws, block out budget, or interfere with public safety decisions, what is your strategy besides issuing a statement?
Sure. So the biggest thing is to work with our allies that Congresswoman Norton and I have been working on for so long. And so, as I mentioned, when I started the DC statehood bill, it lost 2-1. We got a record number of co-sponsors on the bill, and right now in Congress there are 207 co-sponsors of the statehood bill, when it only takes 218 to pass. And the way that we did this, we made this a national issue. We got over 100 national organizations to endorse the DC statehood bill, which made DC statehood the national issue that it is now and that it deserves to be. So the way that you fight these fights is largely the way that we've been doing it with Congresswoman Norton. You engage with those friends, you engage with your colleagues in Congress, you engage with those 100 national organizations, you engage with DC residents. I will say one of the most effective things that we saw in Congress was whenever Congress was trying to cut DC's local budget by $1 billion, we had school children going up and saying, we don't want to lose our teachers and have our teachers fired. And so having DC residents with all those great groups is incredibly effective. And so that's what I would do, is continue to work with those allies, just as I've done for the past 8.5 years.
Well, let's talk about statehood again. So every candidate that's running for this seat supports statehood, obviously. What would you do, to continue to build that coalition that the Congresswoman has done over the past 35 years with Republicans, by the way, in order to continue to progress the cause of statehood?
That's exactly right. And I'm the only candidate in this race who has done that for the past 8.5 years. And what you do is you use every single opportunity available to advance the cause of DC statehood. So if you have Trump that does something horrible and crazy to DC, as you see way too often, you stand up to it. But you also use those things to gain momentum for DC statehood and for DC home rule. So for example, whenever President Trump cleared Lafayette Square, whenever we had January 6th, we used that opportunity to pass in the House for the first time ever the District of Columbia National Guard Home Rule Act, which would give control over the National Guard not to the president, but to the mayor where it belongs. And so you use every single opportunity, whether it's good or bad, to keep making this the case for DC statehood and for DC home rule.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about federal safety, public safety rather, and civil liberties. You see what's happening with the deployment of alphabet soup law enforcement agencies, federal law enforcement agencies across the city, as well as the National Guard.
Over 2 dozen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going up, actually. I think I heard he wanted to increase those numbers. How will you really work with the federal government to decrease these, this law enforcement stature and posture without jeopardizing public safety?
So let's be clear, our local laws should be enforced by our own local police officers. There are 2 dozen police forces that are already in DC. We do not need the President of the United States coming in and trying to legally to federalize the Metropolitan Police Department. And so I worked with Congresswoman Norton, and we've worked on the District of Columbia Police Home Rule Act, which would make it where the President could no longer try to federalize MPD, which he tried to legally do. And also, the last thing we need are National Guard troops on the streets, which he's again done illegally. But the only way that he can do this colorably is because we're in the District of Columbia, which is why we need to pass, as I mentioned, the District of Columbia National Guard Home Rule Act to give control over the Guard to the mayor. And the biggest thing is these are the prime examples for why we need DC statehood, because we do not need these federal agencies enforcing our local laws in a way that you can't do anywhere else. And we can also make the argument across the country on why this shows why we need DC statehood and to try to get empathy, because what happens in DC happens elsewhere weeks later. We saw this, for example, in California, where they brought out the National Guard there to enforce their laws, but the thing is that was on federal property, so they couldn't do it everywhere else. DC is treated uniquely and uniquely bad because we're not the 51st state.
Got it. Let me ask you about Ward 8 specifically. As I mentioned earlier, Ward 8 has a lot of federal land, federal properties, federal installation, including that big military one right across the avenue here. How will you work with the federal government to address Ward 8 concerns? We often have to complain about mail service in Ward 8. We often have to complain about, you know, the National Park Service doing their job, how will you, as the congressman, I always want to say congresswoman, it's been so long since she's been in that office, how will you, as the congressman, help to address that?
So you have to be in the community. That's what Congresswoman Norton taught me. And she was so good about always being everywhere in DC. The good thing about being the DC delegate as opposed to a member of Congress from a different state is that you live here. You're not just traveling home on the weekends. And so the biggest thing that you can do is go talk to your constituents every single day and be in your neighborhoods every single day. And we were so good in Congresswoman Norton's office about taking constituents' concerns and relaying it to the federal government and getting actual real results. We had numerous meetings with the Postal Service, as you mentioned, about concerns right here in this local area about why the mail wasn't being delivered. We held them accountable and it got better. And it's all the way from that to, for example, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, which houses DC Code residents who are in, who have violated the DC Code. And so those people are frequently across the country. And so you have to watch every single day, see where they are, and that's what we did, making sure that they were close to DC and in facilities that were safe. And so the biggest thing is just being there, being in the community, and being that voice on the Hill and being the voice with federal agencies.
All right, so Ward 8 has some great views. I've been asking everyone about this, great culture, great history here. If you were gonna take your campaign or, you know, a significant other or a family member or just a visitor to a place in Ward 8 to just show them what's great about our city, where would you take them?
I would do two things. Players Lounge, because of course, you have to say that. It's so wonderful and good. And then the other would be Frederick Douglass House, just because of the amazing history there, and because he's the namesake that's going to be what our new state is going to be named after, and because of his great history and his standing up for DC well before DC statehood has become this national issue that it is now.
Got it. All right. Well, listen, take a little moment here to make your closing argument to Ward 8 voters why they should select you as the next delegate to the U.S. Congress.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again to everybody for being here. As I said, I'm the only candidate in this race who spent every day of the past 8 years working side by side with our warrior on the Hill, with Congresswoman Norton, fighting on every single major federal issue impacting the district. When I first started with Congresswoman Norton, the DC statehood bill had been voted on one time in 1993, and it failed 2-1. They lost half the Democrats on the vote. We worked together to make it a national issue. We got 100 national organizations to endorse the bill, and because of that work that we did, we took the bill from losing 2-1 in 1993 to passing in the House twice. And I'm the only candidate who has that experience of delivering for DC every single day. We increased DC TAG awards, for example, by 50% when so many other programs were being cut. I've stood side by side with Congresswoman Norton fighting every single anti-home rule attack that we've seen, and they're just going to keep on coming. So we need somebody who knows what the seat is about, who knows how to deliver for DC at the federal level, and we need somebody who has been there fighting every single day on these complicated and critical issues. And so that's why I'm asking for your vote.
So give it up for Robert White, Kenny. Thank you so much. Tell me the significance of that song to you.
I used to live on 27th and R Street when I worked for Congresswoman Norton. That was when Obama was running for president, and I worked for Illinois, and I drive from Southeast to the Capitol, and I would just play that song. That would get me ready for a long work day. I'm going to put on for my city and Congress.
I love it. I love it. Great song right there. Well, first of all, I'm going to start off with the question I've been asking everyone running for this seat, which is 35 years for Eleanor Holmes Norton. Talk to me about the significance of this generational change here. You also used to work for Congresswoman Norton, so talk to me about that relationship. And if I'm not mistaken, were you the first out there to say you were running for that seat? Or one of the first? Okay.
I was the first to declare.
Okay, gotcha.
My plan this time last year was not to run for delegate, but I've seen what the rest of us have seen, which is that there's a real chance that we won't have a mayor or council much longer if we don't have somebody in Congress fighting this fight. But we are also in an intersection of history. Books will be written about this time because we are either going to go the direction of protecting democracy or in protecting black people and black communities, or we're going to have Trump and these Republicans run over us. So I realize that this is the seat that I need to run for. Now, I'll close with this. When I lived in Southeast and started realizing how inequitable things were in the city, and that I was thinking about leaving for office to run for Congress, nobody knew my name. Nobody knew who I was. Yesterday, Congressman Jim Clyburn endorsed me and said, Robert is the future of black leadership in our country. And so we have come in a phenomenal long way, but I'm excited about this fight.
Well, we hope that he can keep his seat because they're trying to redistrict him out of his seat in South Carolina. But that's a good deal right there. Talk to me a little bit about your vision around home rule. If Congress moves to overturn our laws, block our budget, or interfere with public safety decisions, what's going to be your strategy? We can't just issue a statement anymore. We have to actually take it to the streets.
We need action right now. So there are a couple things that are really important about my vision for this seat. One, I'm going to raise this to a seat that has a national profile. People across the country cannot support an issue that they don't know about. So across the country, people are going to know me as DC's delegate. They're going to know DC and how we are disenfranchised. But the other thing I realize is that our home rule rights are going to be determined by the outcome of the midterm election. So my work starts on June 17th, the day after the primary. When we win, we're going to start mobilizing residents across the nation to make sure Democrats win back control of Congress, because that is the best thing we can do to protect DC's home rule.
Got it. You know the district has a lot of federal workers here, contractors, people who are connected in some way to the federal government. This past year and some change hasn't been the best in terms of federal job cuts and DOGE and, the federal law enforcement interference. Talk to me about your strategy as the delegate to the district to push back against these changes.
So I know families that are very close to my family where one has a dad who had just started working for the federal government. He got DOGE, lost his job. I'm not sure how they're going to keep paying their mortgage. Another family, equally as close, the mom was a contractor, lost her job, and just 2 months ago got a job after about a year of unemployment with a kid going to college. So we have to take this seriously. If Democrats win back control of the House and ideally the Senate, we're going to have to restore our federal jobs, but around a clear vision to attract people in. We also cannot depend on the federal government to bring all of the jobs that we have lost. So I have a strategy to bring tens of thousands of jobs to downtown DC and to across the district and the region, working with our regional members to do that. So creating federal tax incentives for businesses to relocate to DC so we can have more jobs for our residents. Getting federal funding that other jurisdictions get when they close military bases because they lose so many jobs. We've lost more jobs than any military base closure. So this region should be getting federal funding under that same principle. So I'm going to get us funding to restabilize our economy, federal tax incentives to bring jobs back, and fight to re-expand the federal workforce.
You work with Republicans in the House to do this and the Senate to do, and the President to get these types of bills passed?
Some of the bills I do think we will get Republican support on. So, look, they are, believe it or not, they're members of Congress who have business interests in some of the buildings downtown, so they don't want them empty either. So I do believe on the economic stimulus, we can get Republican support. But we have to be very clear about where we are. On things like DC statehood, for the foreseeable future, there will not be any elected Republican support.
You mentioned the federal support and resources. Talk to me about what that looks like here in Ward 8. Can that look like more investment in infrastructure, in the environment, in small businesses, healthcare? What does that look like for Ward 8?
So where we are sitting right now used to be federal property. I was the staffer for Congresswoman Norton, who was the lead staffer on getting this St. Elizabeth East transferred to D.C. And look at what we have now, right? This has created jobs and stimulus. Across the street is the headquarters for the U.S. Coast Guard and the Department of Homeland Security, which brings people into the community. Unfortunately, they're behind the wall.
Again, Ward 8 has a lot of federal lands, federal installations here. We need really good leadership in Congress on this.
So I believe that we should have a strategic economic plan for Ward 8, and that it shouldn't be here's what we want to accomplish in 10 years. It should be here's where we will be in 10 years, and here's the mile marker every single year to let us know we are on track. What we lack is accountability.
everybody who runs for office says, I'm going to do this for Ward 8, I'm going to do that for Ward 8, and things are not changing fast enough, and we need more accountability there. We can create a, deputy mayor for East of the River, and then it disappears. Like, there has to be more accountability there. The delegate should be part of that plan. So the delegate working with the mayor, the Ward 8 council members should be developing that plan, and I am 100% committed to moving that. The other thing that I can do, and this is something that I borrow from Congresswoman Norton, is work with our Ward 8 businesses to get onto the federal supply schedule. So if you sell toilet paper, you got a hauling truck, you got a construction business, you should be getting money for federal projects. And that's something that I will be able to help you with as delegate.
You mentioned, and I mentioned at the top, and you just mentioned a moment ago that you work with Congresswoman Norton in Congress. Can you talk just a little bit? I know Trent also worked with her as well. A little bit about what does this mean as far as this shift? Her leaving, I know we all gave her a round of applause earlier, but this is a big change, man. Like, we got to get used to, a new face representing DC.
So the best way to honor somebody's legacy is to build on top of it. We don't have to rebuild the foundation that Congresswoman Norton built. But the risk we run is somebody in that seat, a seat that has tremendous power because she built it, but that power doesn't exist in law like most other members of Congress. So if the next member of Congress doesn't know the power she has accumulated, they will lose it. And it will take us another several decades to reaccumulate it. So you need somebody who on day one knows that when there's a Democratic majority in the House, they, by tradition, allow you to vote on the minutes on the floor. You need to have someone who knows on day one that when there's a Democratic president, they allow you, like senators, to recommend federal judges. And we see the impact that has on communities like ours. You have got to have somebody who knows that seat and knows how to use it, but also how to modernize it for a new day. This is a new day, and we can do some things differently.
Before we close out, can you tell us where you would take your beautiful wife, Christy, who I know, and the girls, and just anybody who you're bringing to the city? Where would you take them in Ward 8 if you want to really show them the fire that makes up DC?
No, I appreciate it. But we'd have a good time in Ward 8. I was asked this question here a few weeks ago. I appreciate Trent borrowing my answer. I'm taking you to the Players Lounge.
Give us a new answer. If you said that answer, we would give us something new.
Something new? Okay, but I do like the Players Lounge. So, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take them to Anacostia Park. We're going to go skating. But then I'm going to take them to the office of the Informer. Because right now, black news outlets are more important than they have ever been. So that's where I'm taking it.
Okay. Make your closing statement to the Ward 8 voters as to why they should select you to be their next delegate.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you coming out today. We are in a moment of history that matters more than most. This is a moment that matters more than any other time, probably since the Civil Rights era. Because we are in a time where we have a president who is openly trying to destroy democracy, who is openly promoting racism, a president who's a U.S. attorney is on one hand saying, I'm going to show you how tough on crime I am by arresting young black kids and arresting their parents, but not tough on crime for the people who stormed the Capitol and they pardoned. In a country where you have never been able to have a serious conversation about reparations, but the president is about to get $1.8 billion to give out to people who are his friends, including those folks who killed police officers, who caused traumatic brain injuries. We need somebody in this civil rights seat, in this voting rights seat, who is going to fight the fight for today. Now, I'll say this. I was in a debate yesterday where all the candidates running for this office said, yes, this is a civil rights and a voting rights seat. But one of those candidates tried to pass a bill to allow search and seizure, warrantless search and seizure. Tried to pass a bill to allow the police to collect DNA from people who are arrested, not having been charged. Another candidate on that stage who in the first debate said the reason Congress is trying to take over DC is because the council went too far when they said over-incarceration is not going to make us safe. And another candidate who said the way that the federal prosecutors are prosecuting juvenile crimes is not a federal issue. I said that's because you've never been in handcuffs because of the color of your skin and because you dress like the rest of your friends. This is a civil rights moment, and we need a civil rights leader. And it don't mean you gotta be black, but it does mean that you gotta show up the way that you came in. Not like some kid's birthday party when you put on a costume and then you leave the room and you take that costume back off and you are no longer about civil rights. This is a serious time, a time for a serious candidate. I am asking for your vote in this straw poll. I'm asking for your vote on June 16th, and I'm saying let's get to work because we have work to do. Thank you and God bless.
Also running for delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives is Kenny Zalesny. Bring her up now. All right, well, thank you so much for being here. And again, we thank all of our delegate candidates appearing on stage for donating to the Ward 8 Democrats GOTV efforts, including you, candidate Zelensky. So let's get started. I've asked everybody this question so far, and it is about this generational shift that's going to happen in the U.S. House delegate seat for D.C. Eleanor Holmes Norton is retiring after 35 years. Speak to that legacy and also why you are the right one to replace her.
Great. Thank you, Troy. And hello, Ward 8. I first met Eleanor Holmes Norton in 1995 when I was working in the White House, and she was 4 years into her service as DC's delegate. I had huge respect for her then. I have huge respect for her now. And I want to say something important about her background. Eleanor Holmes Norton didn't come up through DC Council. This seat has never been a stepwise promotion from DC Council. I know my opponents in this race want you to think that Congress is just some kind of varsity city council and that they should just slide up into that seat because they've been legislating here. But that's not the job. It has never been. And the reason Eleanor Holmes Norton was so successful, so fierce, so powerful, and so inspiring to us in DC is that before she came into that job, she had worked on the national stage. She had built national networks. She had built a national reputation. And when you don't have a vote on Capitol Hill, you need to use other tools. She used her network. She used her relationships. She used her national gravitas. The other candidates in this race don't have any of that. But I have been working on the national stage for 30 years and winning for DC in that time. I worked in the White House. I was counsel to the Attorney General at the Justice Department. I ran a nonprofit in DC. We helped thousands of black and brown students be the first in their families to go to college. And we took that program national. And Barack Obama noticed and gave us a big portion of his Nobel Peace Prize money. And also on the national stage, I ran the strategy team at Microsoft, and I was co-chair of Women for Kamala Harris. Those relationships are what's going to get DC access, going to get audiences for this city, and help us win our fights.
Excellent. Let me just ask that we remember in the back to keep our voices to our inside voices. You're doing a good job, by the way, just I want to remind you, okay? So, Kenny, let's talk a little bit about your background. It's in policy, advocacy, civil rights reform. You just talked a little bit about that. How will you turn that experience into power for DC in Congress, where DC often starts without a vote?
Yes. So let me tell you the story of my college access nonprofit, because we worked with every high school in the city, including Anacostia, Ballou, Eastern, Dunbar. We worked with seniors across every high school. And let me tell you what our story was. We knew that there were high school students in this city who could make it in college, but they weren't making it to college. And we had a second insight. So that was the first. The second one is that the most influential person in the life of a 17-year-old is another 17-year-old. So we took those talented kids and we taught them in an intensive way how to do their college application process. And then we taught them how to teach their peers. And through that, we changed the college-going culture in this city. The college enrollment rate of high school graduates in this city used to be under 40% when my program started. We boosted it to over 60%. And that happened across DC, and then we took it elsewhere. We took it to Chicago, we took it to West Virginia, we took it to New York. And that's what Barack Obama saw when he was president and said, this program matters, this insight is right, what happened in DC can grow and happen elsewhere in the country, and that's why he gave us a big piece of his Nobel Peace Prize money. Now, I'm telling you that story because that's how you build power in Congress. Well, we started in that little nonprofit in a basement of the Jubilee Housing Project Teen Center. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any name recognition. We didn't have any formal power. What we did was we saw the nugget of the value in those teenagers, and we built a coalition to support them. The coalition was parents, businesses, schools, foundations, and ultimately Congress itself. We built that coalition. When you're DC on Capitol Hill and you don't have formal power, that's what you do. You build allies and partners, and you bring them to your side. That's what I've been doing for 30 years, and that's what I will do for DC as your delegate.
The unemployment rate in DC is higher than the national average. The unemployment rate in Ward 8 is about double that, and then the unemployment for black people is above that number. And so I'm curious if you were to get in, black people here in Ward 8, I'm curious if you were to get into this seat, how will you use that role as the delegate to push for more funding, more opportunities, job training? We need the cavalry here.
Yes.
Kenny, and so what will you do in that seat to get people to get investments in the people right here in Ward 8?
Troy, the reason those numbers are so high is because this city has suffered a deliberate, malicious, frontal economic attack by our president and the MAGA Republicans. And it's not a coincidence. They have deliberately tried to dismantle all the progress of the civil rights movement. They look at DC and they see it as a place that built a black middle class off the back of the federal government, and they said, we don't want that. They have deliberately tried to dismantle it. So we have got to fight back against that. Now, let me be clear about how you fight back. Number one, you recruit all the allies and partners in the Democratic Party, which has not been good enough to us. You enlist those partners to fight with us and for us. But the other way you fight back is we have got to wean ourselves off of the federal government. We learned this year the hard way that we're a company town and the company hates us. And we can't sit by a second time and let that happen. So how are we going to do that? We have to, now this is going to sound familiar because two other people on the stage just said this. We're going to need to bring new industries into this city besides the federal government. But you know what's different between me and the other two people who just said that? They don't have any idea how to do that. I am the only one in this race who has any business experience at all. I used to run the strategy team at Microsoft. And during my tenure, Microsoft became the most valuable company in the world. I know something about job creation. I know something about the AI revolution that we are experiencing. And if DC is going to come out a winner on the other side, we are going to have to bring those jobs here. That if we just think we can be a 20th century economy where the only employers and the only industries are government and tourism and restaurants, it's not true.
What else would you bring?
We have to develop a local startup tech scene here, which we have the raw ingredients to do. We have great universities. We are a place that young people want to live. If they were born here, they want to stay here. If they weren't born here, they want to come here. And we need to have jobs for them. Look, there are a lot of terrible things about AI, but one of the good things is that it will enable some students to leapfrog some of the historic skilling and training that has been required to succeed in the workforce. AI will enable some students to get farther faster. And we need that for our kids in Ward 8 and across the city. Because there will be new jobs available if we're smart about how to develop a homegrown tech scene. And we have to bring the big businesses here. Amazon created a second headquarters, but they went to Northern Virginia. They didn't come to us. We can compete better for this. And small businesses, which make up the bulk of our economy outside of government, they don't thrive unless there are big businesses that they can be part of that ecosystem. I'm the only one with business experience in this race. So the others can talk about, oh, we're going to bring new jobs and we're going to diversify the economy, but they have no idea what they're talking about. They have never done it, and I have.
Let me ask you what I've asked everyone, which is where would you take someone here in Ward 8? Can't use Sycamore and Oak, but where would you take someone here in Ward 8 if you want to show them a good time with the soul of the city? Where would you take them?
All right, I know you said don't say Sycamore and Oak, so I won't, but I do want to tell you something. I was first in this race. I know you asked Robert if he was, but he was not. I was the first one to get in this race.
Thanks for clarifying that. Okay.
On July 21st, 2025. On July 22nd, the next day, I came right here to Sycamore and Oak. This is where I launched my campaign. And on that day, I met Jamar Gage, who was working at that juice bar, and we became friends, and he became my very first campaign supporter, and he is still one of my biggest fans, and I'm so glad to see you, Jamar. So I do come here, and I have the best and fondest memories. But
any place else?
Yes. All right. I would take my...
And very quickly, because I got to get you your final statement.
Mama's Kitchen for some pizza, and we'll go have a picnic in Anacostia Park.
All right. Well, Kenny, thank you for the chat. I'm going to give you the last moment here to make your case to D.C. voters, Ward 8 voters, as to why you should become the next candidate or the nominee for a delegate to Congress.
All right. Thank you, Troy. Look, to me, there is one question that should be in the minds of Ward 8 voters and voters across this district. And here's the question. Do you want everything to be the same, or do you want change? Do you want to just go in a straight line in the direction we're heading, or do you want something new? Because if you want the same thing, if you want the unemployment rate we've got, if you want the crime rate we've got, if you want the oppression by the federal government, then stick with the DC council members who are already part of the 16 people who run this city. And just keep on promoting them to a job they're not qualified for. But if you want something new, if you want new business opportunities in this city, if you want someone who has real and deep and widespread and long-standing relationships with the people on Capitol Hill who will do something for us, then vote for me. I am number one on the ballot, not only in this race, but the entire ballot. Open up your ballot. The delegate race is first. My name is first among the delegates. So the very first name, Kinney Zalesny, you can't miss me. I ask you please to rank me number one on June 16th. We can make a big difference in this city, but not if we just keep recycling the same people who've been leading their whole careers. It's time for something new in this city, and I have the political and the business relationships that can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Kenny Zalesny.
This election is about all of us, our neighbors, our seniors, our young people, our families, and our future. On June 16th, Democrats will vote for mayor, delegate to Congress, at-large council, and state party leadership. These races will shape housing, safety, schools, opportunity, and the future of our communities. Don't sit this one out. Return your mail ballot by June 16th and visit ward8pms.com/ward8votes for more information